Mind Your Subconscious is the podcast that provides you with techniques and knowledge about your subconscious mind, the part of your brain that lets you control your ego and create an extraordinary reality with your thoughts. We invite meditation, hypnosis, NLP, EFT, and other experts to help you master the most powerful part of your brain. Your host is Jennifer Schlüter, who quit her job as managing editor of 22 newspapers to travel the world and work online just after one hypnosis session. A nomad ever since 2016, Jennifer is now a certified hypnotist and helps people transform their dreams into reality. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mind Your Subconscious. Today we have a very special guest. Don't get too excited because it's me. But for real. So I want to talk to you today about past life regression and past life regression therapy, because that's what I do mostly for my clients, and that's what I believe is the most powerful method of hypnosis that is out there, at least the way I have seen it and the way my clients have seen it. So that's why I wanted to bring it to you. And I also want to dispel some myths and just give you an idea. Like, it doesn't matter if you believe in past lives or not, but just maybe for you to hear another perspective. And I'm not here to convince you at all. Like, you can believe whatever you can believe. But this is my truth, and I find it to be true to me. And I just want to put it out there that there is that kind of thing that really exists as far as we can prove it. That means with recordings of people and what they were saying about past lives, and near-death recordings or recordings of near-death situations that people went through. So let's start with how I got into this. So last year, my former coach told me about a book called Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, who used to be a psychologist and hypnotherapist. And he discovered that some of his clients were actually not only regressing to their life and to their childhood, but they were regressing even further to lives in ancient Egypt or ancient Rome or the Middle Ages or wherever, right? So at first he didn't believe in it at all. And he was like, what the hell is happening? This is just our mind making things up, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe in this, and so on and so forth. And the same thing happened to the second person that I read the book from. His name is Brian Weiss. And Brian Weiss also, he used to be a psychiatrist and also dabbled in hypnosis. And then when he was doing hypnosis and regression on his clients, then he found out the same thing as Michael Newton, but also he was a skeptic at first. But when he regressed more and more patients into their past lives, he found that he had the same findings as Dr. Michael Newton. So both of them were skeptics at first, but they turned out to be the biggest believers and now what we call experts in past life regression of the Western world. And Michael Newton actually also developed a hypnosis technique which lets you go from not only to your past lives, but also to what happens in between the lives that you are on Earth. So you are reincarnated for a certain amount of time, but what happens in between when you're dying and then before you go to the next life? What happens in between? And he calls this technique life between lives, and it can only be done by a certain certified hypnotist. But you can, it's a technique that you as a hypnotherapist, you can also do, because once you know how hypnotherapy works, then you also know that you can take people in between lives. But to call yourself a life between lives hypnotherapist, you obviously have to take his program and be certified by one of his institutes and whatnot. Anyway, so how does past life regression even work? So past life regression is a form of hypnosis where normally us as hypnotists, we take you back to your childhood so you can work around and rewrite events that happened in your childhood. But if there are some karmic events that have happened in your past lives, or some lessons you didn't learn in your past lives, then that may be that your current life is affected. So you would have to go to a past life and fix it. Then in the hypnosis session, you would not only go back to your childhood, but you would regress even further to a past life. And it's a really simple technique, because as in normal hypnosis, we will relax your body and your mind. And once we have done that, you are able to access past life memories. And once you go back and work around things that have happened in your past lives, or you see certain situations that have something to do with your current life or with current life issues, then you can actually not only heal emotional issues or karmic issues, you can also sometimes heal physical pain. For me personally, that hasn't happened just yet, because obviously I don't have like 20 years of experience yet, but Dr. Brian Weiss and Dr. Michael Newton both have described incidences where, for example, a patient came to them and they have said, I've always had this pain in my neck and I don't know why, and it's not going away no matter what I do. And then they do a past life regression, and then their pain is gone because they found out that they have been killed with a sword, or into their neck, or shot in the chest with a gun, and then that's why they had chest pain or whatever. So really interesting. And then the pain completely disappears and it never occurs again. And the same thing with phobias. For example, one of my clients, she was like, you know what? So we went back into a past life of hers. Before I found out about her phobia, we went back into a past life of hers. And we saw her death scene where she was surrounded by birds. And at the end, her body was eaten by birds. And then I bring her back up from this regression, and she's like, Jenny, now I know why I'm always afraid of birds and why I never liked them ever. So it's clear for her now. And now she doesn't care about birds anymore. She's not afraid anymore. She just doesn't care anymore. And then you have all the emotional benefits. So for example, let's say you are a woman in this life and you're always being cheated on, but you cannot figure out why, because you're like a great person, you're awesome, and you haven't done anything wrong or whatever, it's not a lesson that you're supposed to learn in this life. But then you regress into a past life, and then you find out that you were a man who was always cheating on women. So in this life, you had to learn the lesson of how it feels to have that happen to you. So these have also been described by Brian Weiss or Michael Newton in their books. And it's very interesting. And then what I do with my clients is not only do we go to past lives for issues such as confidence, or not feeling enough, or just not really going for things, and not really, or just being fearful of what is going to happen or whatever. So the more often you go back to your past lives and you go back into that space in between, the more calm you become about death and about fears, because then I don't only have this life, but I have the next life. And I'm not worried so much about my own death anymore, nor am I really worried about my friends and family's deaths anymore, because I know we will reunite. And it's just this peaceful feeling around death. And the more you go back into the space in between, which is your soul, because that's what we call souls, right? Is what we have in our bodies and our spirit that makes us breathe. Because once our breath is gone, our spirit is gone. Our body is dead, but we move on to the soul heaven, and then we move into our next life. So if you go back to that soul space, your soul can tell you why you were shown this life in today's past life regression. Your soul can tell you what your purpose is in this life on earth. And your soul can tell you why you have picked your parents, what you're learning from your parents, what they're learning from you, and just why you're here and what your main, how do I call this? Your main mission is on this earth for this life. And the more you advance as a soul, I can just say, like, the higher you go up in rank, so to say. And this is what if you're higher up in a rank, then this is what we call old souls. Have you ever called anybody an old soul before? Then you know why this is now. So the more you have been reincarnated, the more lessons you have learned, the more of an old soul you are. And if you're a really old soul, then you become a guide or you become a master, and you can help people here on earth in physical or non-physical form to advance and to remind them of that, life is not as hard as we as humans make it out. It's easy, and we're all supposed to be happy and living in love and being free and not be confined by material things or by power or held back by fear or whatever. But we as humans, we have to learn that, because the more we learn these lessons, the more we advance as souls. And the most advanced souls, you can channel them, basically. You can channel their knowledge, and it can come out of your mouth, basically. And sometimes this happens in past life regressions, where people change their voice a little bit, or they change their vocabulary, they change the way they speak. And that's when they channel the masters, which is really beautiful to witness, because then you get wisdom that you don't often get to hear, but also your patient or your client doesn't often get to hear. And when it comes from your client, then the clients who hear this from themselves really believe in it, and they really internalize this advice, because whatever comes from you, from your own voice, you trust that the most, because you trust yourself the most. There's no reason why you shouldn't trust yourself, right? And so here's a question that I got yesterday. Like, why do some souls come back on earth in physical form and other in non-physical form? It's simply because we as souls have to advance, like I said, and we have to move on. And if we have advanced enough, then we can come back in non-physical form and decide to help other humans on their way, like, for example, spirit guides or other guides. And we can just come back in non-physical form and help them. And when we come back in physical form, it means that we are not done learning our lessons yet. Unless we are an old soul who wants to return to Earth to experience it one more time and to teach people lessons, or to help them, guide them, and to teach them the lessons that they need to learn. So now you're wondering, I'm sure, what kind of proof is there that past lives and souls and all this stuff really exists? Well, for once, there is proof, because all of us past life regressionists, we get the same exact results. Like, we get people to go back to ancient Egypt and to ancient Rome or whatever, and have us exactly describe what the world used to look like. And now you can argue, okay, what if they have seen it in movies? Okay, point taken. But then you explain to me why all these people around the world that have done a past life regression or have had a near-death experience, why all of them will tell you about that light that they're seeing after death, that light that feels so peaceful and calm and beautiful and loving and wise, and where they meet all their deceased, let's say, family members and friends that they have lost on earth. Every single person with a near-death experience or past life regression can tell you about that light and how good it feels. But then also about near-death experiences, there are studies that have been done. And all these studies, they suggest that either you walk through a tunnel to that light, or you cross a bridge. That depends on the culture. Like, in Asian culture, it's more like a bridge, and in Western culture, it's more like a tunnel. And they all will tell you the same thing. And sometimes, if you have a really great case, like a great case for us as regressionists, then you get a person who will speak a completely different language, like an old Gaelic dialect, or just a really old language that doesn't even exist anymore. But they will speak it perfectly because they can remember it from their past life. So these are the really great, I think I personally also haven't experienced it because I haven't been in past life regression for too long, just for about a year now. But the people like Brian Weiss and Michael Newton, they definitely have had experiences where their clients, their patients have spoken a different language, and where they just mention details that they couldn't know. And again, you can say, okay, they may have seen it in a movie or whatever, but the ability to speak a language, I know as a second language learner, or right now second language speaker, right? And I'm trying to learn a lot of languages, but I know that it takes years to perfect a language. And the people who are going back to their past lives, they don't have years, obviously. They just know it within 1 second. They recall that language. And so that's another proof. Obviously, there's no real proof in any, anything that we can comprehend, because we don't see souls. We only feel them, and we may hear them if they talk to us in our minds, in our heads, but there's no physical proof. Like you can't see them. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's some people who see the souls. There's some people who can see the soul of a person. Also, that you cannot capture in a photograph. You can capture auras, you can capture other things, but you cannot capture the soul of a human in a photograph. So that's why a lot of people are skeptical and why they don't believe in it, obviously. And I can see that, Oh, and here's another proof. So, for example, if Michael Newton or Brian Weiss have asked their clients about, where does the soul go and how do they advance, and, other things about the soul and about the levels and about the masters, they always receive the same answers from clients who did not know each other, who could have come from a completely different culture and who had nothing to do with each other, and who didn't grow up together, who had completely different life experiences, but they will all give you the same answer about souls and advancement and the soul heaven and meeting deceased people there. They will all give you the same answer. So if souls and past lives didn't exist, how is that possible? So now let's talk about the concept of soulmates and soul family. Soulmates and soul family are souls that you will always meet in different lives and who will always help you learn different lessons in different lives. And how do you recognize soulmates or soul family? You recognize them because from the very first moment on that you meet them, you're like, okay, this person is in my life for a reason. We get along really great. Like, this is awesome. I'm sure I'm going to stay friends with them forever. And we just get along so well and blah, 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 blah. And they will end up teaching you very important lessons in your life. And sometimes, in my case, for example, I have different dreams about my soulmates. For example, one dream that I had about one of them was that I have dreamt that I was in his body, and I saw through his eyes, and I saw my eyes were full of sand. They were full of sand. And the next morning I called him. I was like, dude, like, I had a dream about you and your eyes are full of sand and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, that's because I was in a sandstorm yesterday. And I was like, oh shit. That was a long time ago, but that was the first one where I was like, oh damn, this is crazy. And then another one of my soulmates, I had a few dreams about her one time where she was doing handstands. And I asked her the next day and she was like, yeah, for the first time in like 6 months, I've been practicing handstands again. And I was like, huh, interesting. Here's another soulmate for sure. And then I had another dream about her where she was chasing something in a garden where it was really green, and I knew her boyfriend was filming it. And so the next day, she posted an Instagram video of the same exact thing, like she was chasing a peacock through a park. And then I asked her, I was like, were you with your boyfriend there? Was he filming this video? And she's like, yep. I was like, okay. Another soulmate right here. So yeah, this is how you can recognize your soul family. Or like, even if they come into your life for a very short time and they teach you one of the biggest lessons that you've learned in your life, that's the soul mate or soul family. You're connected with them. And sometimes you don't only have dreams, but you have like premonitions. You know things about them where like, how would I know this? Like, why did I know this? And you can sometimes, like in my dreams, for example, it was I saw the future or the past. So you will see different things about them, and there will be a certain connectedness that you just can't deny. So now let's talk about the risks or negative effects of past life regression. So there is a study that has been done by the Association of Regression Research and Therapy, and they said that 3% of their subjects felt worse after a past life regression, 27% felt no change, and 70% felt improvements or felt better after a past life regression. So there's not really any negative effects. It's really low, like it's 3%. And that's also, of course, if you are a mentally stable person, not somebody who is like diagnosed with depression or anything, because that can quickly go wrong. Also, because if you have a life, or if you are shown a life, for example, a person that I know always asked me, like, he was like, what if I used to be a concentration camp officer in my past life? Like, that would be horrible. That would like affect me in a horrible way. And my answer to that is no, because in that life you had to learn a specific lesson, and you did learn, and you did advance, and you came back on earth to, and you are not a concentration camp officer anymore. So you have learned that lesson from that past life, and that past life is only coming up because it's reminding you of that lesson that you have already learned, and it's only coming up because you need to see that again to learn something else in this life. And what I always say to hypnosis patients of mine or clients of mine who are asking like, oh, what if anything scary comes up? What if anybody has, or what if I've killed someone, or what if I've killed myself, or what if I was killed? So let me tell you one thing. Everybody in their past life has killed someone, has been killed, or has killed themselves. That's just a fact. And your subconscious mind will never bring up anything that you can't handle, because as humans, our perfect state is a state of well-being. We always want to be happy, and we always want to survive. So our subconscious mind is never going to bring up anything that's not going to let you survive and that's not going to make you happy. Yes, something crazy or something impactful or traumatic like that can come up. But if you walk into the past life regression with the attitude, okay, I can only learn today. In life, we only have lessons or memories. Memories are usually good. Lessons are usually something bad that happened, but we learn from it. And so if you live life that way, only either you've learned something from that experience, or you've taken away a great memory, and that's it. So you cannot become sad or depressed or have any type of negative feelings about it. You just have to go in with the right attitude, right? Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more about our soul's purpose and what it is and how we can find out about it. So our soul's purpose is the biggest lesson in this current life that we have to learn. We can find out about it if we do meditation, if we do hypnosis, or just, sometimes it just comes to us. And for me, I did a past life regression on YouTube where I found out that my soul's purpose was learn and teach how to love. And when I learned that, my whole life started making sense. I was like, okay, this is why I got these parents, and this is why I got these ex-boyfriends, and this is why I live my life the way I live. And this is also because I got a tattoo that says love unconditionally, because I got that before that I found out what my purpose was. And your purpose will always be something big, which means it's either love, freedom, truth, communication, or whatever. But it's always something, a big concept. And people, they always want to know, like, how can I find my purpose, and how can I really live it, and how can I be fulfilled? Because everybody wants a more fulfilled life, right? So if it's just a big concept, obviously your soul is not going to tell you become a kindergarten teacher, or become a tax accountant, or become a singer, or whatever. No, your soul is always going to tell you the lesson that you're meant to learn on this earth. But it's up to you however you want to pay it forward. So learning is one thing, right? If you have learned a thing, then you can only prove that you have understood it and that you have internalized it by teaching it to others. And once you have taught it to others, then you as a soul can advance. You have learned this lesson. You have understood and internalized this lesson because you are teaching it to others. So it doesn't matter in what job you end up. All that matters is that you are happy, and that you are living a fulfilled life, and that you are doing things that you love. Because once you do things that you love, then you are going to be happy. Then you love yourself because you don't allow yourself to do something that you don't love. So when you do things that you love, and when you constantly keep doing them, then you will shine a light on others. You will shine your light, and you will be able to help other people, and other people will see the love that is coming from you, that other people will flock to you because they see, oh, this person there's something about this person. There's something that they do differently. You know what that is? They act with love. They do things with love, and they help others with love, and they put love in everything that they do. And that's the only thing that's different about these people that are in a room and that are shining their light on others, and where you're just like, oh, I want to be in that person's presence. I want to be in their circle. I want to be friends with them. And this is what they do. So I want to mention this again. If you decide to do past life regressions, then you won't receive advice on life like, oh, for your business now, you need a sales funnel, and you need, brick and mortar business. You need to order more of these dresses, or you need to order more of these lip glosses, or whatever. You're not going to receive that. What you will receive from past life regression is the biggest advice that you already know is true, but you have to internalize it, and you have to learn it, and you have to understand it. Like, for example, love is the strongest force, or love can heal everything. Is that true to you? Is that true to you? Is that right? Is it not that if we love ourselves, we are healed? Is it not that if we put love into things, it feels great? Is it not if we love others unconditionally, not conditionally, not only when they're happy, not only when they're sad, or, you know what I mean? But no, is it not when we love others and ourselves unconditionally that we are happy and that things are good? Is it not then? Or another client with the advice that she received from the masters that she shared out loud in a past life regression, which was, nature does not worry. A tree doesn't worry if he deserves light or water or nutrients. A tree just grows. Or frogs or cats or dogs, they don't worry that they deserve food, or if they're good enough to deserve food, or if they're good enough to deserve anything. They just know that they deserve the world, and they deserve food, and they deserve everything. And they just take that as a given. And we as humans, we have this belief in us sometimes that we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or not whatever enough to receive something that we want. And that's why not all of us receive everything we want, because something in our subconscious mind, one belief that happened that we adopted from most of the time of our childhood, one belief that we adopted, unfortunately, that is holding us back from having it all, from deserving it all. We all deserve everything. We all deserve the world. But sadly, our subconscious mind has adopted a belief from somebody else, a teacher, a classmate, a parent, or whatever, when we were children, that we are not good enough. We don't deserve it all. But actually we do. The universe is abundance. Look at nature. Nature is abundant, and so is the universe. So why are we always worried? If we deserve things, or if there are enough things, there is enough for all of us on this planet. But humans come with their greed and their hunger for power and all these other little things where they say, okay, either we're not worthy of that, or where they say, these other people are not worthy of that because they're worse than us. No, we are all one, we're all the same, and we deserve all the abundance that this universe has to offer. We don't need to make borders, we don't need to make any distinctions between any human, because at the end of the day, we're all the same. We all love, we all hope, we all fear, we all cry. It's a favorite quote by my one of my favorite authors and poets, by the way. Her name is Maya Angelou, and I've tattooed it on my body. So we all deserve the world. But the ego, the human mind, is constructed in a way that it screams like, me, I want this, I want that, I want power, I'm greedy, I'm this, I'm that, blah, 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 blah. But our souls are pure love. Our souls are pure light, and they know. They know what is right and they know what is wrong. Only our ego comes in between, and that's why we come here on earth to learn these lessons. We learn to let the ego go. Whenever we learn a lesson, we let the ego go. We let the ego out, and we learn that lesson with love and from love. And that's why I do believe in the concept of souls. Because we come here on earth each and every single life to learn the lessons and to let our ego go and to internalize and understand that the universe is abundant and we can have everything, and just the human ego is messing things up. Or us not accepting the ego or not being fine with it, or everybody has their own way to deal with their ego. So, but anyway, the bottom point is souls are love, and they come from good and well-being, and they come from goodness. They don't come from bad. Humans are what are making things bad. Humans have the desire and the need for power and for greed, that they are making things bad, and souls come from love. And whenever you go into a past life regression, and whenever you talk to your soul, you get that ultimate wisdom, and you get that love, and you get that feeling of light. That'll change you. That'll make you remember, this is where I came from. That'll make you remember, this is how we should be. This is how everybody should be. There is enough for everybody. So this was my little rant at the end of this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it still. And I would be really curious to know your thoughts about all of that. And I would be just curious in general what your thoughts on past life regressions are, or on souls. If you've ever had a soulmate, or the feeling of having a soulmate, just let me know. Write me, comment on this podcast, write me on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever you can find me. I would love to have discussions with you. I would love to talk about past lives and past life regressions. If you want to book one, you can do that too. And yeah, this is it for this week's podcast about past life regressions. I hope I answered all your questions. If I didn't, like I said, let me know, comment, write me, whatever it is, and I will answer your question. So yeah, have a great week, have an amazing week, and I'll catch you next week for the next podcast episode. Love this episode of Mind Your Subconscious? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review on whichever platform you're listening. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Catch our next episode every Monday.